It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out.
I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
Financial Crisis Talk Center time. All right, Brian Small, Dave Einstein, Frieda Bowden. We're going to do a case study today. But before we get in today's case study is going to be Dave and Mary when your business goes bust. But before we get into it, in the last segment, we were talking about, I think, Jerry and Sarah, and they had the loan modification that went south. And we went through the analysis with Brian and put them into a Chapter 13. And at that point, we had them in a situation where they were in a Chapter 13. They were able to cure the arrearage in their mortgage over a 60-month plan by making a $496 payment. They were saving the $2,000 that they were going to have to pay on their credit cards and the $700 and the $575 or so they were paying on their second mortgage. And so they were able to accomplish it. But one thing that we didn't have time to cover in the last segment was also in a Chapter 13, it's possible sometimes to modify the mortgage, isn't it?
It absolutely is possible. Now, what happens in a Chapter 13 is now you've got the ability to slow the whole process down because you're already in a 5-year or a 3-year program, which guarantees you, as long as you make the payments, that you are going to get rid of your second mortgage, get rid of your credit card debt, and come out of the Chapter 13 process basically debt-free other than what we call a continuing claim, which is your first mortgage. Now, that being said, remember the facts of this case were that the first mortgage was approximately $2,500 a month. And the client, Jerry and Sarah, had a $7,000 income. So with the $7,000 income, 31% of that is about $2,170. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and homeowners association dues, if any, if they come in excess of 31% of your gross income, makes you eligible for the HAMP
which is what we said at the beginning of that segment. So they'll be able to modify their mortgage and bring that payment down about $300 a month. However, you have to play with the numbers in the Chapter 13, don't you? Because you don't want that extra. The benefit would be that money ends up going to the creditors.
Well, it does. If you reduce the payment to the mortgage company by getting a modification while you're in Chapter 13, that $300 difference is going to be funded to the other unsecured creditors over 5 years, the maximum of 5 years.
But then you got 25 more years.
But you have 25 years of freedom without your second mortgage.
And you might get, in this case, our hypothetical example had Bank of America as the lender. You might be able to get principal reduction on the mortgage in the modification when done right, because under the National Mortgage Settlement, principal reduction is still in play, particularly with the 5 major lenders. Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, GMAC, Alley, and Citi. That's something people need to keep in mind.
Elements of doing a loan modification inside of Chapter 13 is that there are attorneys on all sides. There's a judge that can help
Brian,
regulate
that's my
the
exact
process
question.
on top of it.
My exact question, because in this case study, it started where the client was HAMP eligible. They should have received a loan modification, and the lender didn't. We don't
know if the lender screwed it up or if Jerry and Sarah screwed it up because they were trying to do it
either way. Here's my question to Brian: if you're in a Chapter 13 and you have a judge and attorneys, can you go to the judge if need be and say, "Hey, judge, they are required to do this under HAMP. I want you to order that this be done under HAMP," or at least you have the opportunity to file a motion to get it done?
Well, actually, the true answer is no, because a mortgage in Chapter 13, there is no provision in Chapter 13 that allows for the modification of a mortgage. It's a purely voluntary thing from the lender standpoint. However, the fact that it is in bankruptcy court takes it out of the everyday loan modification process that Bank of America or these other banks have to go through, and it moves it into the special bankruptcy department. And I promise you, it is much more efficient to utilize the bankruptcy departments, and the attorneys that are on both sides can get things done that you couldn't get done as a regular person.
And I would add to that, we also enlist the court's indulgence in giving us time to allow us to go back to these departments and the lenders to get it done the right way.
We just finished up a case.
And the judges tend to cooperate if you're diligent.
We just finished up a case like this where we actually worked on a very complex loan modification for over a year. And the court gave us the time necessary to get it signed and sealed.
But Brian, isn't there a difference? And maybe we just haven't seen a case yet on these facts, because what you said was that typically the lender, the first mortgage, the court really doesn't have authority to mandate a change. But in this particular case, there's a federal regulation and rule out there that says you have to do the change.
Well,
I just don't think it's been brought up before the court yet.
No, but there's a lot of case laws that have decided there's no private right of action under HAMP to compel a modification. And so the courts have rejected that, not in the bankruptcy court, but the district courts rejected it a number of times. You've got to get it done on a cooperative basis is really what it comes down to.
Absolutely correct.
But sometimes it's worth the argument. I see where you're coming from, David.
I just kind of feel like Joe, the bartender, could actually provide all of this information and more after a few cocktails.
He could if he's a good listener and watcher of the Financial Crisis Talk Center. If it's his favorite show for the last 5 years, he would have that knowledge and information available to him. But he'd have to have a certified card saying that he's a certified Financial Crisis Talk Center prodigy.
Is that like the dread card from WR? Ooh, I'm not allowed to say other.
Let's go on.
I want to set the stage from 25 years ago.
I want to set the stage on the next case study. I was going to give you an article, but we're going to hold off on the article. We'll cover it if we have time later. A collection agency got fined $3.2 million by the FTC for unfair collection practices, which I thought was nice news. But this one is Dave and Mary, when their business goes bust, and it's to illustrate how sometimes we have to use more than just bankruptcy or a combination of bankruptcy with something else, like in this case debt resolution, and tax relief in order to get a major problem under control. It's not an easy situation, but this is the situation that Dave and Mary found themselves in. Dave is a professional. He's a smart guy, just like on that commercial. He's got a good job. He's a professional. He makes $175,000 a year. He owns a modest house with Mary. Fair market value is $250,000. It was $350,000, and he has a mortgage of $250,000. He invested and backed his brother-in-law in a tool and die business, and here's where it gets bad. He guaranteed debt for his brother-in-law of $650,000. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to explain Dave and Mary's situation and solve their problem.
I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't run or exercise. I couldn't work.
Dr. Lewis Radin believes that pain shouldn't have to wait. His Spine Specialist of Michigan is a comprehensive center dedicated to helping you manage pain now. Expect the latest techniques and personalized care. Why suffer another minute?
He's the best. I tell people that he's the one that saved my life.
Make your appointment with Dr. Radin. Call 248-792-9496.
If your house is underwater, please listen to this important message.
The rules have finally changed. We're seeing some great loan modifications with reduced principal, and short sales are easier to get done than people think. The biggest problems I see are people wait too long or they try and do it themselves. There are no second chances.
If you're underwater in your house, call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns, facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do. We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
We did.
We sat down together and solved your tax problem. No more letters, no more phone calls. They saved me.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
All right, welcome back. I've got Brian Small, Dave Einstandig, Elfrida Bowden with me. We're going through, from Thav Gross, and we're going through a case study. This is Dave and Mary. Their business failed and went down the tubes. Before we get into it, a couple announcements. We've got a seminar coming up again. It's called Resolving Your Finances, Tuesday, September 17th, 6:30 to 8 at our office building in Bingham Farms at 12.5 and Telegraph. You can sign up by going to thavgross.com or fctalkcenter.com or calling 888-235-HELP. Seminar covers every aspect of financial issues, and it's much broader than the acute crisis that says there's no food on the table, I've lost my job, I'm losing my house next week to foreclosure. Those issues, that issue is covered, what your options are to save your home, but it's more expansive than that. You have to focus on the fact of the Dave guy who's got $80,000 of credit card debt. He's spending $16,000 a year of interest, and he's throwing $2,000 a month of his income away on credit card debt. I don't care if he's making $175,000 a year, $75,000 a year, or $300,000 a year. He needs to figure out how to get rid of that credit card debt. We can show him how to do that in a smart way so that that money starts going into a retirement account rather than going into the profit of the 5 major banks in this country. They make enough money. They don't need to make Dave's money. But Dave has to be smart. That's what it comes down to. I know. Now, did you wonder why I picked Dave as the person, David?
I was wondering that.
No. Because you used Brian recently, so it's Dave's turn?
I've never seen an Elfrida or an Alfredo in any of these case studies.
I'm going to go with Alfredo.
You know what happened to Alfredo?
What happened to Alfredo?
A canoe ride.
Oh, on
boat ride.
Yeah, because his brother
sleeping
sent
with
him
the fishes.
Yeah, that was a long time ago already. That was Godfather 2.
I'm very well aware.
Tough break for Alfredo. Was there any relationship, Alfredo?
No.
Okay, back to Dave and Mary. All right, so we left off when we went to the break. The bad news was he guaranteed. Remember, Dave makes $175,000 a year. He's got income, but he guaranteed loans relative to his brother-in-law going into the tool and die business, $650,000 in bank loans. Dave thinks he wants to protect himself, so on his own he says to his brother-in-law, I want to be vice president of the company. I want to countersign all checks. So he's a check signer, and he's an officer of the company. The business does not go well. As it doesn't go well, when it closes, at the end of the day, he finds out that Bill, his brother-in-law, had not paid $100,000 of federal payroll taxes, and he hadn't paid $20,000 of Michigan state withholding and sales tax. Mary, she's a nurse. She makes $60,000 a year. She didn't guarantee any of these loans, but she did give her brother $50,000 of credit cards in her name to use for the company, and those all got charged up. And she's also a co-signer on $25,000 of Dave's credit card debt. I forgot to mention Dave. Dave has also given the brother-in-law $250,000 worth of, or he's amassed $250,000 of credit card debt. $200,000 of it is money that went into the business for his brother-in-law. The other $50,000 is $50,000 worth of charges. So Dave's got $250,000 of credit card debt. He's got a $100,000. There's $100,000 owed in payroll taxes, $20,000 to the state, and he owes $650,000 to the bank.
So what you just to recap, so you've got too many numbers out there. Dave has $850,000 worth of business debt. He has a $250,000 mortgage that he co-signed with Mary. And Mary's got about $75,000 worth of credit card debt, $50,000 of which is business related.
Dave actually has $970,000 worth of business debt. He's got $650,000 in guarantees, $200,000 on the credit cards, and $120,000 in payroll taxes. So Dave has a total of $970.
I would
Mary
agree that under either scenario, Dave's got a problem.
Can he divorce? No, I'm sorry.
Can he divorce himself?
Mary might divorce Dave.
The question is, can Dave divorce himself from the debt? That's the key. That's what our job is for him. Here's the fun begins. Bank sues Dave on the guarantees for $650,000. The credit card companies, Dave's trying to keep pace and paying him $6,250 a month, and he's going broke because the interest is costing him $50,000 a year. A collection officer from IRS has stopped by Dave's business and asked to speak to him about the $100,000 in payroll taxes and the notices that are coming from the state of Michigan, or he's worried about the notices. And Mary, she's starting to cave under the pressure of her $50,000 of credit card debt and the other $25,000 of Dave's credit card debt that she co-signed on.
And Dave's not even at Dave's at his regular job.
Dave's still running his regular job. He's a smart guy. He's got a good job.
And Brian's drooling over the fact pattern.
I thought he was the second signer on the check. So wouldn't he know that some of these things weren't paid? Or
well, he had the right to sign the checks, but he never bothered.
Gotcha.
But here's the problem: when you're a check signer and you're an officer of the company, you're going to get nailed for the payroll taxes on the federal side, on the trust fund portion, and you're going to be liable on the state side from the standpoint of the entire amount of the tax.
When you say liable or get nailed, you're going to be assessed most likely by the taxing authorities, but you have substantial defenses to that, which is a significant and technical undertaking.
If you can show that you had nothing to do with the decision process in paying the bills.
In essence.
And Dave would have an uphill battle on these facts. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
And it would be expensive.
Yes.
Okay. So, what are they going to do? Now is the question. Here's how we analyze it. Chapter 7 we've talked about in bankruptcy with Brian is the best option for discharging debt if you can qualify it, because if you're eligible for a 7, you get to keep what you have and your exemptions, and you can discharge the rest of your debt. Now, Dave may have money in his retirement account, but he has no savings, so that's protected in a Chapter 7.
Well, remember here...
hang on, Brian, and then answer the question. Is he eligible to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? We're going to take a break. Well, no, you can start on it before we get to the break.
The answer is yes, and it's not a normal situation because Dave, who makes $175,000
and Mary makes $60,000,
would not normally be eligible for a Chapter 7. But when we come back from the break, I'll explain why.
I want to give a little hint. Because of the means test is usually a problem, right?
That's right, the means
because
test.
Because he's got $235,000 of income. We're going to take a break and tell you why Dave can file.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Financially strapped? Do you want to save your home?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Double Action, shooting center and gun shop for the largest selection of guns, accessories, and ammunition. Double Action is your only pro gun shop. And now you can train with the best in our basic CCW course with the most comprehensive curriculum, the best resources, and most accomplished staff. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Double Action is the only place to get your CCW or renewal. Double Action. We're on DeQuinder and Madison Heights.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
All right, welcome back.
Dave, you're a bright guy, important job, smart. So why are you so dumb?
See, Dave's got to figure things out. That's what it comes down to. Dave's got to figure out how does he get out of this problem because he's still making that $175,000 a year. Before we get to it, I want to thank our sponsors, Ben Johnson Law,
Samasco Law.
Samasco Law. You go ahead and do it.
Double Action Shooting Range.
Spine Specialist of Michigan. David, do you have one to add?
Gold Star Law.
Gold Star Law. We got them all?
We got them all.
Okay.
It was a round table.
Absolutely appreciate support. Ben Johnson Law, great personal injury attorney. Gold Star Law, employment law, they do a great job. Samasco Law, elder law specialist. Al Action, Double Action Shooting Range. I think we forgot Al. Every time something goes wrong, people buying guns. It's a good thing. Spine Specialist in Michigan. We really appreciate the support. Now let's go back to Dave and Mary. All right, so
Ken,
here's
hold
the
on.
situation.
Before you go back to him, there's one thing I got to emphasize that we looked
Emphasize
over.
it then. What is it, David? Dave, what is it?
The first
Dave?
thing that Dave has to do is to keep quiet and not freak out. When that IRS officer asks to speak with them, Dave says, I'll be glad to provide information. I have to speak to my tax advisor, get their name, information, and that's it.
Absolutely. Dave does not want to talk to that guy. Be polite, be nice, say, I've got counsel. But he has to know to have counsel. You know, right now he doesn't even know that because he's just floundering around, even though he's a bright guy.
Even if he doesn't have counsel, just don't
I
talk
plead
to
the
him
fifth.
and get
All right,
counsel.
back to Brian now because we got about 6 minutes left. All right, Brian, here's the situation. Why is it that Dave can I have two questions for you. Can Dave file a Chapter 7? Three questions. Can Dave file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? What does he do about his taxes? And what about Mary? Another good movie.
What about Mary?
Well,
Something
let's start
about
off
Mary, you
with
moron.
I was close.
Dave has the opportunity to file a Chapter 7
Artistic
bankruptcy.
license.
Dave's opportunity to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy exists because the means test applies only to consumer debt. And remember what we decided here and what the fact pattern is Dave has invested in failed businesses. Failed businesses, that investment led to a $970,000 liability, including tax liability.
Yeah, and his personal debt is $300,000. He owes $250,000 on the house, and he has $50,000 of credit card debt. So he has $300,000 of personal debt.
And his business debt or non-consumer debt, which for those of you that have IRS debt for 1040s, for your income tax liabilities or state of Michigan liabilities, income tax obligations are considered non-consumer debt. That's really important to determine your eligibility for bankruptcy. In this situation,
Payroll tax obligations.
Investment into businesses
Income
are not.
tax is personal debt.
Income tax is personal debt, but it's not considered consumer debt. Therefore, it goes on the side of non-consumer or business-related debt when you're determining eligibility for bankruptcy. So, what we've got here is Dave has $970,000 worth of liabilities, and Dave now can discharge his obligations in a Chapter 7, regardless of the fact that he makes $175,000
Because he has
a year.
$670,000 more of business debt than he does on personal debt.
Exactly. And so Dave now, even though he's making $175,000 a year and would fail the means test if he had to take it, he doesn't have to take it. So now he gets to discharge
What
his
about
obligations.
property he owns, household and effects, and
Well,
some jewelry?
assets can preclude you from won't preclude you from being eligible for a bankruptcy, but in determining whether or not you should or shouldn't file a bankruptcy, those assets may leave you at the point of that you've got too much that you own to file Chapter 7.
Dave's not sitting on any cash in the bank.
Remember,
the only
Dave,
money he has, let me finish, is his savings, which is in his retirement account. He's even or underwater on his house, so there's no equity there. He has no basic assets that would.
What about
preclude him
Mary?
from filing bankruptcy.
Well,
Now, what about
Mary does not have the opportunity to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy because the household income is $175,000 plus $60,000. Mary's total business or non-consumer debt is exceeded by her consumer debt. She has a $250,000 mortgage that she signed on.
So what are her options?
Mary needs to look at doing debt resolution.
Why can't Mary file a Chapter 13?
Well, Mary could file a Chapter 13, and actually, after Dave does a Chapter 7, and noting that Dave had $6,200 that they've been paying a month on their credit cards, on the $250,000.
$50,000 is going to be left for Mary because that's.
I understand,
still
but what we've got here is Dave has plenty of money left over.
Because after he files his Chapter 7, he has no expenses.
Right. So the first thing I would do with Mary is I would go utilize Dave and Mary's income to settle Mary's credit card debt.
By doing debt resolution.
Exactly.
How does that work?
We would
in 1 minute or less, because then you have to answer the other question. What about his tax problems? And we only have
in 1 minute or less.
Minutes.
The basic object of the debt resolution is to settle your credit card debts for less than what you owe through negotiation with the lenders. The average is going to be anywhere from 20 cents on the dollar to 40 cents on the dollar. And Mary and Dave are going to save a considerable amount of money in the long run. And they have the pool of money to do it with because they had leftover cash on a monthly basis to pay the $250,000 in credit card debt.
Side note on that, and then we'll go. We still have a little bit of time for the taxes. When you talk about debt resolution, we do it differently, and we think of it differently than when you hear about debt settlement. We don't like debt settlement. I just want to come out and say why. Number one, those firms are not lawyers. They don't represent you if you get sued. They walk away from you, and they charge you fees on a monthly basis and basically take advantage of you, and they don't deliver what they're supposed to, and that's why the FTC is always cracking down on them. Debt resolution, the way we do it as lawyers, is we lawyer the thing, we negotiate, we reach settlements that are far more beneficial, and believe it or not, even though we're lawyers, the cost is far less than these debt settlement companies.
All right, tax problems.
With regard to the tax problems, the remaining issues are you have a couple of different options. After all is said and done, Dave could go into a Chapter 13 bankruptcy because you can file a Chapter 13 after a Chapter 7.
But
we call that a Chapter 20.
He's going to have an awful lot of cash available to him. The only debt he's going to have is the tax debt.
That's right, but we could spread that tax debt over 5 years.
Why can't he just go see Jenny Lingo and work out an installment payment agreement?
He also could do that, enter into an installment payment agreement.
The next segment, when we come back, Jenny's going to come back, and Jenny's going to solve Dave's tax problem. Because Dave's a bright guy, but he's got to start making the right moves. Have a great week. Enjoy the last vintages of summer. We will be back next week with the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.